Today on the Extra Point, what else? The Olympics. Welcome to the show that's better than a rouge, but not quite a field goal, the Extra Point. And today, of course, a very special edition of the Extra Point, as it is all Olympics, all the time. Vancouver 2010, that is what everybody has been talking about. There have been highs, there have been lows, and we're going to talk about all of them right here with two very special guest analysts. We're going to start with Sean Reeves. Sean, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
And alongside him is Keith Reinhardt. Keith, how you doing?
Great, thanks, Brian. Always good to talk sports with you.
Well, we've reached the midpoint of the game so far. We're just hitting into that final stretch where, you know, the medals are really starting to pile up. What have been the really surprises for you so far, and what have been some of the more pitfalls for the Canadian side?
Start with me?
Sure.
Well, I think Emil Hegge Svensson of Norway, he has an impressive gold and a silver medal in the biathlon men's 10-kilometer and 20-kilometer sprint. That's pretty impressive to me.
I would like to talk about hockey. That's not a problem. Although Canada did lose to the States and they had that tough game against Swiss, you got to look at the young guys that have really pulled through. We have Drew Doughty, who was one of the most controversial picks to the team, and he's probably been one of their best defensemen. You got people like Taze, and all the young guys just been probably the best players for the Canadian team, and I think that's a great surprise for the team so far.
That's a really interesting point, Sean. Of course, we're going to touch on the Canadian men's Olympic hockey team later in the show. Such a big draw for Canada in Vancouver. One of the hottest tickets you can get, guys. I know that if I could be there, I would be, but you know, I can't afford it. So anyways, we want to start off with where the Olympics started off, the opening ceremonies. And if you guys watched it, there were some ups and downs to go along with them. Of course, there were some technical malfunctions along with some of the more cultural events of Canada. But in your opinion, were the opening ceremonies a success or a failure? Sean, we'll start with you.
I'd have to think they were a success, despite the malfunction, as you mentioned. Great jump to start with the snowboarder going through the rings. That was pretty impressive. I thought he might fall, actually, so it's good that he made it through. And, you know, just had some of the greatest Canadians out there, and I think it was a good time, good moment there.
And Brian, I don't want to call it a success or a failure, just maybe a missed opportunity to succeed. You know, because they planned this for like 4 years, right? And so there shouldn't be any malfunctions or anything. It should be more successful. But it was great, like Sean said, to have all the Canadians out there. So it was, you know, it was still good.
What about the way to pull it off, though? I mean, you look at that, and you have to feel for someone like Katrina Lemaidon, who's done so much for Canada, and then she's just out there and she's just holding her torch up with nowhere to go.
She reacted nice to that. She was very professional about that when everything was going on.
Yeah, it's just a disappointment. Like, there's nothing really she could do, so she just did what she could, really.
Do you guys agree with the 4 people that were selected to open the ceremonies for Canada?
Well, I agree. I would have maybe liked to see Terry Fox's father or mother in there. It's maybe the one person.
That is one of the bigger issues coming into this. Of course, NBC kind of flubbed their coverage of it, calling him Michael J. Fox, or at least Michael Fox, on the broadcast. But is there anyone else, Sean, that you would have liked to see in the opening ceremonies, or for you, is it really Terry Fox too?
I honestly do not have a problem with who was out there. So many great Canadians that if you pick one, you miss another, so I don't think it was a problem.
It's almost kind of the same problem that you can get with the Canadian men's hockey team, I guess, eh?
It is, yes.
Anyways, we'll be back with more on the Extra Point after this.